Chapter 1. The last stand of Earth. The void of space was an eternal silence, a vast sea of darkness where nothing could be heard. Yet, amidst this emptiness, the sound of battle roared. Explosions echoed through the metal hulls of ships, the crackling hiss of shields collapsing, and the grinding whine of weapons firing at maximum power. Stars were blotted out by the massive warships and their glowing arrays of weaponry, a war between species on a scale never before seen. The fleet of the Archenith Empire, the great conquerors of the galaxy, had underestimated humanity. They believed Earth to be nothing more than a death world, a primitive planet surrounded by weak creatures with no chance of survival against the advanced might of the Archenith. For months, they had brought the war to humanity's doorstep, systematically bombarding Earth and its colonies with relentless precision. Yet, here they were. Humanity had survived, and now, on the cusp of annihilation, they fought back. General Elena Roberts, commander of the United Earth Fleet, stood before a holographic display in the bridge of the flagship Repulse. Her eyes never left the battle unfolding outside. The Archenith forces, led by the ruthless warlord Valas, were closing in, expecting this to be the final conflict. Earth's fleet was outnumbered, battered, and running low on resources. "Status report," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Enemy fleet in range." Lieutenant Kai Garrison, her second-in-command, responded. "We've lost half the long-range guns, and the Starhawk squadron is down to 5 active ships. Shields are at 30%. Give me options," Elena said, her tone not breaking. "Options? Ma'am, we're barely holding on. I don't want to hear excuses." "Lieutenant," she snapped. "What are we doing?" A pause. Garrison's face tightened. "We can either make a run for it, retreat into the asteroid belt, or we can try the Hades maneuver." "But it'll be risky." "Hades maneuver," Elena repeated, her mind already racing. "How risky?" "All or nothing," Garrison replied. "If it works, we could take down half their fleet. If it fails, we lose everything." Elena's fingers tapped the surface of the command console. She had studied the tactics, seen how the Archenith fleet relied on a certain predictable strategy, massive bombardments followed by coordinated strikes. But this time, Elena had a different plan. "Do it," she said, her voice resolute. "I won't let Earth die today." Chapter 2. The alien perspective warlord Valas paced aboard his flagship, the Cruel Sovereign, looking out at the battle from the command room. He had led the Archenith Empire to victory after victory, but Earth had defied expectations. The human species was proving to be far more dangerous than anticipated. "They still fight," said Thrax, his advisor and a veteran of countless campaigns. The alien's 6 eyes glowed with a cold, calculating light. "I thought this would be the end. Why do they persist?" "They fight because they know no other way," Valas replied. "They are a strange species, weak in form, but resilient in spirit. The more I crush them, the more they rise." Valas had dismissed Earth as insignificant. Now, he was beginning to question his assumptions. The humans, with their crude ships and primitive weapons, had turned the tide on more than one occasion. They had fought like cornered animals, with an ingenuity and ferocity that unnerved even the most hardened Archenith warriors. His thoughts were interrupted by a blaring alarm. "Warlord, their fleet has just initiated the Hades maneuver." "The Hades maneuver?" Valas repeated, the name unfamiliar but ominous. "It's a human tactic," Thrax explained, "an all-or-nothing strategy. They engage in feigned retreats, drawing you in, then strike with everything they have." Valas snarled. "Do they truly believe they can outmaneuver the Archenith? This is their final mistake." Chapter 3. The Hades maneuver. The Repulse hurtled through space, making a sharp turn into a dense asteroid field. General Roberts' heart pounded in her chest as the enemy fleet followed. This was their only shot. If they didn't cripple the Archenith, Earth was lost. "All ships, engage," she commanded, and the human fleet surged forward, cutting through the debris with precision. The battle outside was chaos. Human ships weaving through the rocks, dodging and weaving, luring the massive Archenith vessels into the maze. The Archenith had superior firepower, but their ships weren't built for maneuvering like human vessels. The Repulse was taking hits, but they were still in the fight. Lieutenant Garrison watched the radar. "The Archenith are closing in on the trap. The moment they're in position, we deploy everything." The moment came. Elena gave the signal. Now, human fighters emerged from the asteroid field, swarming toward the Archenith fleet. They released their last reserves of missiles, each car carrying a small nuclear charge. The Archenith ships, unable to turn in time, were caught in the blast radius, their shields faltering under the sudden onslaught. But the Archenith were not easy prey. "Deploy the phase cannons," Warlord Valas ordered, and his ships retaliated with brutal force. A wave of destructive energy lashed out, obliterating half of the human fighters. Yet, the humans pressed on. They had no other choice. As the asteroid field erupted in flashes of light, the Repulse itself pushed forward, its last long-range weapons aimed at the cruel Sovereign. "We're going to make it," Elena said, her eyes locked on the view screen. But then, the unthinkable happened. A signal came through, a message from Earth. It wasn't just any message. It was a countdown to a weapon humanity had kept secret. An Earth-made superweapon, designed for the last possible moment, when all hope seemed lost. The message read, "Project Exodus. Self-destruct sequence engaged. Detonation in 30 minutes. Chapter 4. A Warlord's Dilemma. Valas stared at the message in disbelief. "This is a trick. The humans are not capable of such a weapon." But Thrax's voice was grim. "This is no trick. We've underestimated them before. They have something we don't understand. Something we cannot control." The Archenith fleet slowed, uncertainty rippling through their ranks. Alina's eyes widened as she saw the enemy ships hesitate. The countdown was real, and it was about to change everything. She turned to her command crew. "What do we do?" Garrison looked at her, eyes filled with awe and fear. "If that bomb is real, General, we won't have time to escape. It'll be the end of everything." Chapter 5. The final act. The human fleet braced itself as the Archenith, now divided between fear and rage, faltered. But Elena knew they wouldn't retreat for long. Warlord Valas would never give up so easily. This moment, the highest point of humanity's defiance, was a fleeting opportunity. Then, a message arrived from Earth. We've been hacked. The countdown is a lie." Alina's heart dropped. The weapon was real, but it wasn't about to detonate. "Commander," Garrison said, "they've triggered a trap. Earth's a decoy. It's not the bomb. It's us." And at that moment, as the final countdown ticked down, Elena knew that humanity had been playing the Archenith from the beginning. The last desperate gambit was not to destroy, but to force them into a position where every last resource would be exhausted in a false fight. "Prepare for the real battle," Elena said, her voice sharp. The war was not over. The Archenith were about to learn that humanity's true weapon was not in their machines, but in their unyielding will to survive. As the countdown reached 0, the human fleet unleashed one final surprise. Thousands of ships, previously hidden in the far reaches of space, emerged from the darkness. The Archenith had no idea what was coming next, and neither did Elena Roberts. "General, they're coming," Garrison said, his voice tight. "Let them come," Elena whispered, as the future of humanity hung in the balance. Chapter 6. The final reckoning. The hidden human fleet surged into view like a great tidal wave from the darkness of space. The Archenith, who had prepared for a desperate last stand from Earth, were blindsided by the unexpected force. Their ships, clustered too tightly to defend against such a sudden onslaught, were ripped apart by waves of human missiles and concentrated laser fire. "All ships, engage," General Elena Roberts shouted over the comms. "This is it. No turning back." The sound of battle roared through the Repulse's command deck, the deafening clatter of weapons, and the chaotic hum of communications flooding her mind. She could see the enemy fleet crumbling, their once immense warships now surrounded on all sides by the human fleet, hammering them from every angle. Humanity had no more tricks left. This was their final chance. They couldn't afford to fail. "Lieutenant Garrison, status report," Elena demanded, her mind racing as she watched enemy ships disintegrate in the distance. "We've taken heavy losses, General," Garrison reported, his voice strained. "The Starhawk squadron is down to 2 ships. But the Archenith are in full retreat. We've taken down half of their fleet." Valas had underestimated humanity's resolve. But now, trapped in a field of wreckage and swarming human fighters, he could see the unthinkable. His mighty empire was on the brink of collapse. A transmission came through, cutting through the chaos. It was Valas himself. "You think you've won, humans?" His voice boomed, distorted by static. "You've only delayed the inevitable. The Archenith Empire will never bow to the likes of you." Elena's eyes narrowed. She'd expected his arrogance, his refusal to acknowledge defeat. "We don't need you to bow," she said coldly. "We just need you to leave. You will never know peace." "Earth," Valas growled. "Even if you destroy my fleet, we will return. The Arcanith Empire will not rest until your species is extinct. Then we'll make sure you're never given the chance," Elena replied firmly. She turned to her command console, eyes narrowing as she assessed the situation. The battle was far from over, but Valas's retreat had already begun. The Arcanith flagship Cruel Sovereign was maneuvering desperately, trying to escape the ever-tightening human net. It was clear now, the Arcanith were broken, their strategy shattered, their numbers too thin to continue the fight. "Focus fire on the Cruel Sovereign," Elena ordered. "Let's end this." The human fleet responded as one, every remaining ship converging on the Arcanith flagship. The final assault was brutal. Every human ship poured everything they had left into the Cruel Sovereign, hammering its shields and tearing through the hull. Explosions erupted across the Arcanith warship's surface, fires burning in the vacuum of space. "I have a lock on their main reactor," said Commander Talia Rhodes, a veteran pilot aboard the Repulse. "I can take it out with a direct strike." "Do it," Elena commanded. "Make it count." With precise skill, Talia maneuvered her fighter into position, weaving through the firestorm. With a swift flick of the wrist, she fired her missile at the reactor of the Cruel Sovereign. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic. An entire section of the flagship ripped apart as the reactor ignited, sending shockwaves through space that obliterated any remaining hope for the Arcanith. And then, silence. The battlefield was suddenly still. The wreckage of the once proud Arcanith fleet floated like a graveyard of broken dreams. Earth's ships were battered, but they had won. The Arcanith, unable to recover from their devastating defeat, limped away, fleeing into the unknown. Chapter 7. Aftermath. The Repulse limped back toward Earth, its hull scarred but intact. The crew gathered in the war room, the weight of their victory settling over them like a heavy mantle. General Elena Roberts stood before them, her heart still pounding from the intense battle. She had led humanity to victory against overwhelming odds, but the cost had been immense. "We did it," Garrison said, his voice thick with exhaustion. "We actually did it?" Elena allowed herself a small smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, we did, but this is only the beginning. The Arcanith will regroup, they won't forget this defeat, and we won't stop fighting," said Lieutenant Reese, a young officer who had lost many friends in the battle. His eyes were bloodshot from exhaustion, but there was a fire in them. "We've shown them that humanity won't bow down. We'll fight until the last breath." Elena nodded. "Exactly. We've proven our strength, our resolve, but we've also shown the galaxy something else. That Earth, humanity, is a force to be reckoned with." The room fell silent for a moment as everyone absorbed her words. Suddenly, a communication alert flashed on the main screen. Elena stepped forward, tapping the console. It was a transmission from Earth. "General Roberts," the voice said. "The Council has just received reports from the remaining Arcanith forces. They're not leaving." Elena's heart sank. "What do you mean?" "They're regrouping," the voice on the other end said. "And there's something else. They're not alone." Elena's mind raced. "What do you mean, not alone?" "They've allied with a new coalition of species, more powerful than any single empire. They're gathering reinforcements." Elena's grip tightened on the edge of the console. The war was not over. The Arcanith would return, but now they had help. And humanity was still vastly outnumbered. But Elena wasn't afraid. Her people had already defied the impossible once. And they would do it again. "You tell Earth," she said firmly, "that we're ready. We'll stand, no matter the odds." Chapter 8. The Torch of Defiance. As the Repulse approached Earth, the crews were given a moment of rest. The lights on the ship flickered, and the soldiers took a collective breath, realizing that for now, the storm had passed. But the war wasn't over. Earth wasn't safe. General Elena Roberts stood on the command deck, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. The beautiful, fragile planet. Home. The blood of her people ran through this place, and she would protect it, no matter the cost. "We faced the darkest hour," she muttered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. "And we survived." Garrison walked up beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "But there's more to come. We'll need to be ready." Elena's eyes hardened with determination. "We will be. Humanity's resolve is unbreakable. We've already shown the universe what we're made of." The Repulse entered Earth's atmosphere, descending to a planet brimming with both scars and hope. Humanity, Elena whispered, will never fall. As the ship touched down, a new chapter in the war began, one that would be written with blood, sweat, and defiance. And the universe would never forget Earth's name.